Checkmating is simple once you know how to do it. Start by advancing your king to c5. Notice how your queen has trapped my king against the edge of the board. Only a8 and b8 are available for my king to shuffle back and forth. Your king must participate in this checkmate. Step your regent to b6. Sorry, that wasn't the right move. Let's go back and look again. Your king must participate in this checkmate. Step your regent to b6. My poor king is trapped and can only shuffle back to b8. Now deliver checkmate with your queen by bringing her to b7. Your king protects your queen, who is both checking my king and attacking all of his escape squares. March your king towards mine, and only move your queen once to deliver mate. You did it. Let's look at a slightly harder example. Your first goal is to push the enemy king to the edge. Move your queen to f6. Your queen creates a barrier around my king, limiting where he can move. Now move your queen to e7 and trap my king against the edge of the board. I cannot move into check, so my only choice is to run to b8. With my king trapped against the edge, it's time to bring your king into the action. Advance him to c5. I can only shuffle back and forth as your king approaches mine. Move your king to b6, where it will be able to protect your queen. My king can run, but he cannot hide. Move your queen to b7 and deliver mate. Finito. Push my king to the edge with your queen, then bring your king towards mine to help checkmate. Well played. Now let's look at an even harder example. My king stands in the middle of the board. Move your queen to f4 to restrict his movement. Your queen creates a box around my king, limiting his options and nudging him out of the center. When my king moves one square diagonally, you can mirror my move to close in quickly. Instead of checking my king, use your queen to make the box around my king smaller. My king moved diagonally again, but this time in a different direction. Mirror this movement with your queen to restrict his options further. If I were to move to the edge, you would trap me there immediately, so I will step sideways to c7 to prolong the inevitable. Again, your queen can mirror my move and squeeze me further towards the edge. Notice how your king has not yet moved, while your queen does the heavy lifting in this endgame. Now step your queen one square closer to enclose my king into the corner. My king has no choice now but to move to the edge of the board. I move diagonally one square, so you can do the same to trap me on the edge. My king is now entombed on the squares c8, b8 and a8. Once you have trapped my king on the edge of the board, it is time to march your king across the board. I can only shuffle back and forth as your king approaches. March your king towards mine. I have only one legal move. March your king one step closer. My king can only watch as yours approaches. It's been a long journey, but your king has arrived. Move your king to b6. The b8 square is my only option. Move your queen to b7 and checkmate my king. Now let's get some practice with this technique. Let's test your technique. Can you checkmate me? Bravo! Let's look at an example of what can go wrong. Move your queen to d7 to squeeze my king into the corner. With my king already trapped against the edge of the board, the correct plan would be to march your king. Now, move your queen to c7 and let's see what happens. Now, move your queen to c7 and let's see what happens. This is a stalemate because my king is not in check, and I have no legal moves to make. You must be careful to avoid this draw by ensuring that my king has at least one square it can move to. If it were my turn, this would be stalemate. Move your queen to d7 so that my king has a square to move to. Now my king is trapped, and can only shuffle between b8 and a8 while your king makes the long march across the board. Advance your king to b3. My king has only one option. March your king towards the action. I can only mark time by moving back and forth while your king approaches. Step your king forward once more. This technique takes time, but it is very effective. Move your king to b6 and prepare to checkmate me. Here it comes. Move your queen to b7 and win the game. You must allow the enemy king room to move back and forth along the edge while you march your king. If you take away all of the enemy king's squares, you run the risk of stalemating him. Do your best to avoid stalemate and checkmate me. Checkmate. Nicely done. Let's look at another example of what can go wrong in this endgame. Move your queen to f6. This is stalemate, because my king is not in check and I have no legal moves. We learn these stalemate patterns in order to avoid them. Moving your queen to f6 would stalemate my king. Move your queen to g7 instead. Now my king is restricted to the edge of the board, but still has a legal move, so this isn't a stalemate. Move your queen to d7 to checkmate my king and win the game. Avoiding stalemate is fundamental to mastering this endgame. Let's get some practice. Carefully avoid stalemate and checkmate me. I have no legal moves, so this is stalemate, a draw. Carefully avoid stalemate and checkmate me. That's it. Well played. Use what you've learned to checkmate my king. You're getting the hang of this. Here is another one. Can you beat me in this position? Checkmate. Nice technique. Here is a harder one. Can you beat me? You're getting the hang of this. Practice makes perfect. Your turn. You're getting the hang of this. Here is your final challenge. Can you beat me in this position? You got me. Kudos on mastering this checkmate. Nice work completing this lesson, Marco. I'm impressed with your tenacity. Do this lesson again if you ever want to brush up on this skill.